cancel culture has been a talking point for some time. Whether it's about canceling, you know, a TV show that's been coming, or a TV show that deals with certain type of things like about race or police, or just a scene. So we want to discuss whether it's really just for things to be canceled or not. And for example, a show that recently just got canceled, which I kind of thought was a little bit ridiculous, was the show called Defund the Paw Patrol, which is basically about a police dog to some degree, right? And I'm guessing the implications that there was probably there was a scene that may like implied something that could be considered racial, but I don't know. I mean, it's dealing with dogs, so I don't really think. I mean, unless it's like you're a black dog or something, I don't
What's
know if that has to do.
what's it about?
I mean, it's really just about dogs that. Well, okay, so at the end of the day, it's really just about dogs that deal with like they're basically supposed to be like for like all the different departments, right? Like you have the fire department, you have the work department, and then you have a dog that's like the police department, right? And because of that police department dog, I guess Nickelodeon felt to cancel the show due to wanting to be more what's the word? I don't want to say progressive, but be more show more empathetic to what's going on. So
Yeah, show more empathy to what's
yeah, and then not
happening.
to mention the show Cops that was on for the air for a while. Also just got canceled recently.
Interesting.
Also, there's another show called Live PD. So that as far as shows go, that's where that comes in. What do you guys have? What do you guys feel about this?
So these are shows that were currently running, but then have
Yeah,
gotten
now it was
canceled
canceled now.
recently. Yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's hard to to discuss because I don't necessarily know the context of those shows because I never really watched any of those shows. I
Mm,
remember watching a couple episodes of Cops like when I was young.
me too.
'Cause, like that's an old show,
Yeah, exactly.
but um, but yeah, I feel like I would need a little bit more context because I think that the issue around canceling something is usually I feel like a lot of times it's taken out of context. And like you mentioned before we started recording about in episodes of Scrubs
Yeah,
that people were canceling. And for something like that where it's like you you kind of like when you're doing something retroactively, like when you're taking a look at things that happened in the past, I feel like it's very important to have in mind the context of what was going on back then. And to you can't necessarily it's not necessarily fair to judge something that was made 20 years ago based on the standards that we have now.
yeah, I totally agree.
And so I think that like for example so here's a good example. So have you guys seen the movie Tropic Thunder?
Oh yes.
Part of it.
Yeah, so Tropic Thunder is it's pretty hilarious. It's
Yeah,
basically, but a big part of it is Robert Downey Jr.
doing
is in
blackface.
blackface, and he plays this actor. He plays the character of an actor who's trying to play. It's like meta. So he's playing an actor who's playing a black person,
Mm,
and in the movie, they're basically talking about how like idiotic he is to like think that he can play a black person while like doing blackface, and like there's it's like it never glorifies like blackface. And I think that the issue with something like canceling and like specifically blackface is like you have to understand the context of it. I don't think that so blackface was offensive because it was made specifically to make fun of black people, right? And it
exactly.
was like they didn't want to they were portraying black people in these very offensive ways back in like the early decades of film, and so that was the purpose of it. But I feel like when you bring it to a more recent time and somebody is doing it as a commentary, it changes the meaning.
Yeah,
And so it's not necessarily like Robert Downey Jr. didn't do blackface in Tropic Thunder to make fun of black people. Like that wasn't the reason he did it. He did it because the story was about this actor who was idiotic, and it was basically a satire on actors who take themselves a little too seriously. And so I think that it's important when we're in this like mood of like progress and social change that we make sure that we're not kind of just like blindly canceling everything without taking a look at the context. That's basically what my thoughts on it are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have good reasons for some of it. Like I'm pretty sure there's blatant racism in some of this stuff.
Exactly, which is why, like for those shows that you mentioned, I don't know if there was blatant racism because I might have to go back and look at Cops. Like if they're only showing arrests of black people like every single episode.
Well, most likely for that one in particular, it's police brutality.
That's fair.
Or it has something to do with the police going over their abusing their power, basically, or just something that, I don't know, glorifies police being harsh to people. I don't know. Probably relates to those topics.
But like OC said, I definitely agree with the aspect that, context really, we say it before, but it really, really does matter. Because even in the Scrub context, it was just a scene where JD wanted Turk to be his wingman. So like there's a flashback where Turk, his African-American friend, he was dressed up in a white face and JD was dressed up in the black face, and they're going to a frat and he's supposed to be JD's wingman to talk to girls, but happens to be a black frat. So when JD opens the door, black people start beating him up. And then afterwards he flashes back and he says, I don't know how they knew I like crackers. Which is that's the whole point. Like it's supposed to be an ignorant scene where it's just like a white person not knowing,
exactly,
or black friend not knowing you shouldn't be doing that.
Exactly. So that's kind of like that falls into the category of like Tropic Thunder, where it's like they're not doing it to like make fun of black people; they're doing it to make fun of that character.
Yeah. So that's the thing about that.
But like what Scott was saying, there are times when it is blatantly racist, and so it's better that this is probably not being shown to children or to the general public or whatever. That's why, again, I would say that I need more context.
I know, I guess it's just, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm really into comedy. So like for me, I guess I can say I'm more, context matters, but why I'm kind of more on the defense with certain things, like for example, that scene alone, why I would defend that scene. But it's just like I'm trying to think of another good example that kind of came in my head about this, and it's kind of similar. Like for example, The Simpsons, right, where they got rid of Apu because the idea of Apu is that he's supposed to be a stereotypical Indian. So
that's another interesting one. And I don't know if we have time to get into it right now, but I actually was also thinking a lot about that aspect of it with like Indian culture specifically. But yeah, go ahead, because they had that was a couple of years ago where they got rid of
so the idea was that because he reinforced these like stereotypes about India at the time, they should cancel him. But like if you look at the recent seasons with him, he wasn't really fitting that archetype, number one, and number two, the whole thing is not like, it's more about cultural things, right? Because he's also done like a lot of things that broke within the stereotype. So it's like a lot of stereotypes that we have, like it goes back to what, like the whole point of the context is kind of to make fun of. It's not like we're making fun of the person, but we're almost making fun of the idea or even the concept. So, and I guess that kind of worries me a little bit.
That reminds me, what you said reminds me of Key and Peele.
What part of Key and Peele?
I feel like a lot of their sketches, whenever they make fun of the culture of people, basically.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting because different cultures have different experiences in America. And so what is offensive to one group doesn't necessarily automatically seem to transfer to what would be offensive for another group. And so it's kind of like, it's a balancing act, I think.
I definitely do agree with that. But although the Apu thing, if I remember correctly, it wasn't like there wasn't enough outcry from that culture to be like, we want Apu to change. If anything, it just was like a commentary that, oh, there's this stereotype, and then from immediately the sense was like, you know what, let's just get rid of the character, and it was just like that's
Yeah.
where I feel that's where my
Yeah.
worry comes in. And I even think about shows like Community, right? Like there's so many scenes. I mean, even like for example, the trampoline moment in Community where they're making fun
Yeah.
of a guy for being racist, and that's like that's a scene. But I recently was like with somebody, and we were watching that scene, and that person was like, "Man, did this show get canceled?" Well, I was like, "Not for that reason." Reason why, but she was like, "Whoa!" Because the way they're talking, like the fact that they called this girl, like the fact that Abed called this girl a bitch, or said the fat joke, or the fact that they
Mm.
said, or the fact they're even allowed to promote or say the whole like this person was part of a white supremacy or whatever joke, right?
He had like a
That-
swastika tattooed on
yeah,
his
exactly,
chest.
right? Like that whole joke right there, right?
Yeah.
Which is purposely like they're not condoning it. They're not saying what it is was right. That's like the joke
Right.
of it, right?
Right.
Like I just feel like certain things like that could be, and I guess my fear with the whole where does it the line draw is like certain things like that might just be like, let's just take that away because then that's going to that's going to trigger somebody, and then it's like, where do we draw the line is really the question when it comes to that
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, I think you guys are bringing up really great points in terms of the I suppose examples in the middle ground, right? Where it's definitely up for interpretation. But I do think there are a good amount of shows or movies that are being canceled because there was blatant racism or it is glorifying police brutality or
Yeah.
stuff like that in general. So I definitely think that, you know, some of the shows and movies actually deserve it. So
Yeah, I
just
mean, like I was listening to this talk, and they were talking about an old show from like the '60s or something, where they had, I think it was like, I forgot what it was called, but it was basically a scene with these two kids, this black kid and white kid, and they're both like tired and sweaty, and then the black kid like wipes sweat off his brow and like flings it, and like it's black ink sprayed on the wall.
What?
Yeah. And that was just like something like that. I get like, okay, maybe don't just show this randomly on TV, like for kids, because it was like a kids type show. And so I was like,
Wow.
maybe don't show this randomly on TV for kids. Not saying that you should like purge it from existence, but I think I get the idea of not showing it like on TV. Just like, you know, it can be removed. Like they ban other episodes of show, like the BET episode of Boondocks is banned from TV. So like,
That's true. That's
why
true.
not ban racist episodes from TV?
I mean, I definitely okay. When I guess when it comes to TV, that's like that's totally fine, right? Like that's totally fine where you want to ban it on TV. But when it comes to like going back to what I mean, like cancel, like that's definitely where where it's almost as if like you don't it shouldn't be seen. Like there's a difference between like obviously that's the reason why we have like different mediums of TV, right? That's why we have like Adult Swim. That's why we have HBO because you know certain mediums shows certain things, certain mediums don't. So I don't. So when it comes to something like that, like that's where it's like okay, if it's on this medium, sure, do that, right? But when it's like again, you cancel the whole show or to cancel the whole series, that to me is a little bit where we have to go okay, like
Yeah, we got to be.
and to be fair, like there's the other point. Like some of it, maybe there is like histories of again police brutality or whatever or whatever. Like there could be dumb stuff. Like I understand that, but I don't know. It just I think it to me. I just think certain things can be too extreme. And I think we need to find the fine line of where is it being too extreme or not, or is there a way we can have like a viewer discretion due to certain like there's a warning sign like this may trigger versus just assume that it is just triggering and then go away.
Right. So like yeah, I think that would be interesting to have like an acknowledgement of like this has some racial imagery and whatnot before you know show it or whatever. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take on that.